So, thank you. Welcome, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful yesterday, as I did. First, my head was spinning with all the inspirations and the ideas from the discussions, the presentations. Then my legs were spinning. So it was really great. I will talk now about, and I hope it works this time. Yes, it does. Okay, so I will talk about our project with our project concerning how we can make railways safer for wildlife. It's a project that we started a couple of years ago already, together with Mattias, Olsson, Aina, Winsvold. Manisha is there as well, but not, I believe, here. And the Norwegian colleague, Svein, Eilertsen, Carolin, Berndt. So let's see. You know, I believe you can say that traveling by train is one of the greenest modes of transportation. But how do we prevent these accidents from happening? There are thousands of accidents with deer, moose, wild boar, and many other larger animals occurring every year in Sweden and Norway. And the numbers are increasing. They have doubled almost during the past 20 years. As you know, wildlife-train collisions have consequences to traffic safety, to wildlife management, to train delays. Also, the working conditions of train drivers should not be forgotten. The bill exceeds hundreds of millions of euros every year, as well as it takes thousands of hours for the reporting, the handling, and the cleaning of after the incidences. For long, the railway sector did not pay much attention to this issue, because there were no human fatalities involved. But slowly, the realization dawned that this green train can actually be quite red. So we studied accident statistics over the past 20 years in Sweden and identified hotspot sections that were especially prone to wildlife collisions. On average, and that's quite interesting, the average accident density is on railways is higher than that on roads. But we have only so few mitigation measures available to prevent accidents. My voice is not so stable at the moment. But so what we can do is, of course, we could put up fences, we can build bridges. But these measures are very expensive, and they come with quite some environmental footprint on their own. So even in Sweden, where we have so many accidents, there is probably not a single railroad section where the direct costs of the accidents would justify an investment in bridges and fences. So what we need is some kind of a more effective, more cost-effective measure to prevent accidents that can be applied along major parts of the railroad. To do that, we started to wonder how do train wildlife interactions actually look like. We need to understand better of the interaction between wildlife and trains. So we equipped train drivers with dash cams and let them record animal-train encounters. And that study was done during 2015 to 2019, and it taught us very much indeed. You can see the report that has been recently published in the Journal of Environmental Management. So very briefly, the results from this study showed us that first, most animals are scared by the train. They flee early from the tracks, many even before they become visible on the railroad, on the video. The collisions occur on those few occasions when the animals were ignorant and responded too late to the train or fled in the wrong direction, so along with the train, a track, or across it. So we concluded that the early detection of the train seems to be key, and in most cases it seemed to be the acoustic cue that led to a flight response. The train horn, as you can see here on the slide, induced a slightly earlier flight response, but if the animals were already close to the train, we could have the problem that they elicit a panic reaction, and then the animals would probably choose the wrong way and run across or along with the track. So our conclusion from that study was that we need some kind of an early warning system that is based on an acoustic stimuli. So we thought that there are two different approaches that we can take. One is the mobile approach, where we involve train operators, and the other one is a more stationary approach where we involve the infrastructure providers. But how and what kind of signals could we use to elicit an early flight or a flight response? So we looked at the scientific literature about anti-predator behavior, about the landscape of fear, and how animals would respond to sensory cues. We were inspired by the Polish UOZ, that you have seen posters about that already, and it has been published as well. But we thought we should rather test natural sounds that would induce fear in the animals, and by that induce a flight response. So we started by looking at what kind of signals would elicit a flight response in the animals, and we did this by studying the animal responses under more controlled conditions. So, for example, the moose at winter feeding sites in Norway or at salt lick stones in Sweden. We were studying wild boar responses at tar trees, roadie, and traps where they were fed. So all places where the animals would return to once they have been scared off, to get a good statistical database on that. For this, we developed a MASS device, a motion-activated scare system, MASS, we call that. And that was, I don't have it with me here, but you can see this on the poster that we have also at this conference. So we exposed the animals to various sounds, including dog barking and the human voice and artificial sounds. And what we found was that the human voice was actually the most fearsome cue that produced a flight response in between 70 to 80% of all the observations. You can read more about this in the two master's studies and the paper that will soon come out from that study. Oh yeah, this is the MASS device, the old one. So then we took the next step and brought these MASS units that you see on the picture here, a new version to the railway to study the scaring effect in its right context, so along the railroads. This study is still ongoing, but the results that we have already received suggest that the effect of the human voice is even better. So we get a flight response in up to 88% of the cases that we have seen so far. We also see that the train sound, the train horn, can elicit some response, some flight, but in most cases it's just increasing the vigilance, as you see on this video now. So that sounds quite perfect for the stationary device. We don't need any strange and unpleasant animal sounds. We don't need loud sounds that would pollute the environment. It may actually suffice with the human voice at the natural volume of speech that creates uncertainty, unease in the animals to make them leave the open space of the railroad. So the next step for us will now be that we test it in a full implementation study. We intend to refine our approach, somewhat simplifying it so that it doesn't work with the animal detection, which is always quite complicated, but relies on only train detection. We want to install an array of speakers along with the railroads so that we can mitigate a longer section. And this work will start now during the next year, we hope. And in addition, the Transport Administration has now finally, after only 7 years after the proposal, started to build a full-scale mitigation test station or a wildlife crossing point where we can study the animal behavior in even greater detail. So that is good for the railway-based situation, but the train-based warning has turned out to be much more complicated, mainly because there are technical constraints with the camera, with the loudspeaker that has to be implemented on the train. Train operators or train manufacturers have been rather reluctant to install something on top of or outside of the train. So there we may need a different approach. And here it's quite interesting to notice that the train manufacturers like Stadler or like Bombardier, they're already working on these issues. They work on developing a camera surveillance, on GPS positioning so that they can have an intelligent train communication, smart routing and things like that. So there's a lot of things going on that we can tap into. The only thing that they haven't developed so far is some kind of a method that helps them to prevent accidents. They will know when they have hit a moose or a human, but they don't know how to prevent it yet. So that will be then the next challenge for us. And if you have questions, please visit the website wildlifeandtraffic.se, and you can find more about the project. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions at the moment? Just 1 second. Also for the participants online, you can write in the chat if you have questions and I can read them out.
Yes. Good.
Thanks, Andreas. What was the human voice? Did you just say boo to the... Like, what did you say to the animals?
Well, it's quite funny, but we just said that hej, du har aktiverat ett viltvarningssystem som testas av Sveriges lantbruksuniversitet och Trafikverket. That's the message. It's in Swedish, so hello, we just activated a wildlife warning device. This is tested by the Swedish wildlife, whatever. So it's important that it's in the right language, you understand? But I mean, if we can do that, and we just say something, you can just inform people that are near the railroad that now the train is coming, please be aware. And that would suffice, probably, hopefully, likely. Marcus.
So the limitation here could be tendencies of habituation occurring, right? If we have individuals coming fairly frequent to these sites, there's a risk that they will adapt not responding simply. But so far you don't have any indication towards that, right?
Well, in our experimental trials at the feeding stations, there is a clear habituation, of course, but they have been exposed every day, every time they came back to the feeding station. So that's what we expected. But at the railroad, the chances of that the same individual will be warned by the train day after day after day are rather small, I would say. And then it's also the case that when they will be warned, they always experience the train coming shortly after that. We don't know the distance and time, maybe just a few seconds or so, I don't know yet. But there might be just a chance for just the opposite, though, that we sensitize the individuals. They will learn, and they will know that now it's time to leave the track.
And in theory, I mean, this kind of to chase them away using sounds of humans, it will work because it will always be a reinforced signal that they avoid human activity.
Yes.
So that makes it quite smart to use human voice rather than other types of sounds.
Yeah. May I just say something very briefly? As I mentioned, there is a poster about the devices that we developed. So we developed a mass unit, which is motion activated, railway based, but we also have a driver activated, a DAS unit. And if you are interested in doing these studies, installing camera in trains, for example, then you're most welcome to look at our poster. And this is open source, should be available for everybody. It's not difficult to build. It's a Raspberry Pi inside. So if you have interests, contact me. Thank you.
There was another question.
Oh, okay.
And then go on.
Hi. You talked about the test. Can you say some few words about this, let's say, time perspective that you mentioned that you will start next year? So what is your best known understanding how long it will last? What can be your like monitoring scheme or?
Well, we're actually still working with that. Depends on the funding that we can get. But the idea is that we equip selected sections along the railroad, short sections, maybe 100, 200 meters or something like that, with a few loudspeakers, with a sensor that responds to the GPS signal that the train sends out, and then we display the sound and let the train drivers video record whenever they pass through this site. And I hope that we can get more than 10 sites where we have frequent animal collisions occurring otherwise. Well, we will first look at the animal responses that the train drivers can document, if possible. That will be the least expensive approach. But then, if we can have it installed over many years, then we can look at the final result, the accident reduction. Yeah.
Thanks.
So we are running out of time, but
Yes.
there is one question online which I want to quickly give to you. Dror Deneboom is, sorry for the pronunciation, is asking, what about smaller animals, like small mammals, reptiles? Are they also affected by voices, or are there other solutions for them?
Very good questions. I have no idea.
Oh well, so we
That
are keeping
remains
the
to see.
time.
Yes, good.